Parts are in, it is time to build. Hello everybody, I am Ben from Team Panic. And of course, that in the antweight scale means 3D printing. And a lot of it. But wait, there is going to be more, because despite all of this, 90% of it is just prototyping. It's making sure I'm getting my gearing right, it's making sure I'm getting my electronics box right, and it allows me to do things like this. Prototype a brand new weapon design for the robot with a little bit of flex in there as well, which is quite cool. But all of this has been done in a white PLA, which is not what the robot is going to be made from eventually. Now that I've done all of this prototyping, the CAD looks a little bit more messy, and in actual fact there is now 2 versions of CAD, one for the weapons system and one for the rest of the robot, mostly because I needed to be able to CAD the gears correctly. And everything's just a little bit messy at this point, and that is kind of part of the process of building and prototyping a design like this. Nobody, well, very few people ever manage to have nice, clean CAD and build process all the way through.
And here are all the parts that we need cut. The tubing at the back here should be fairly easy. It's literally just going to be cutting each one of these to a very specific length. The uprights are going to be a little bit more difficult because they require holes in a couple of different faces. One for the weapon axle, 2 to lock those in, and then a couple down the bottom to lock the actual upright into the mount at the bottom. And then, of course, we do have the weapon axle itself, which, if we pull it out, it literally just needs to be cut to length and have 2 holes drilled in it, which will be used to lock it in place on the actual uprights. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way first, which is going to be all of these guys out the back here. And then we might even cut the weapon axle as well. Here's also another little tip for you when doing this type of thing. When you are cutting and sizing a piece to be cut, like this weapon axle, measure everything from one end. So if we measure from here to there, we've got a 76mm distance. So we mark out 76mm on our rod, which is where we're going to cut it. But then when we mark where we want our holes to be, so our distance from here to this is 6mm, but I know that this hole is 3mm round, which means that this is 7mm from the end to where I want to mark and indent this hole so that I can drill it out later. And then finally, this other hole all the way up here is 67mm away, but it's 67 plus the radius, which is again 1.5mm. So we end up with 68.5 to mark this hole and get it ready for drilling. And why we do this is because cuts can sometimes be inaccurate. When you make a cut from one end, you may not make it exactly where it needs to be. So if you mark this hole from this end and then this hole, the second hole, from the other end, you may end up with a differing position between the 2 holes. And in this case, the only thing that's really important is that this is roughly the right length, and that these 2 holes are exactly where they need to be so that they line up with the 2 holes in our uprights and make sure everything squares up nicely. So yeah, really all we care about is the distance between those 2, which means measuring them both from the same end actually gives us what we want here.
Okay, so this is basically everything now all cleaned up and parts cut. The actual uprights that I cut, you can see the hole in them is a little bit oblong, and that's because when these parts all fit together, they don't actually fit all the way down in, so I needed to have oblong holes so that things actually lined up a little bit. But that's fine because the bottoms of these aren't flat. The cutting that you saw me do was a little bit dodgy, but that's fine because when they sit into here, they should be okay. I should just be able to force them into the spot that they need to be and glue them and everything will be fine. So because of that, what we're going to do is there's a fairly significant order, and they're going to glue these parts in first, level these up with the weapon axle, glue those in place, then glue the rest of it together. Hopefully I'll be able to fit all of this on this camera because this is going to be a big build. So there we go, it is all glued together. I've made mistakes for sure in the gluing of this. It's just a little bit rocky back and forth, and I know, for example, that the electronics box is too far back because the braces that go this way are too short and didn't quite fit where they were supposed to fit, but it should work at the end of the day. I have also transferred the flexible arms into the new weapon hub. I haven't glued this together yet because I feel like I need to do that later on. We're going to just do a quick test fit of this in here and make sure that everything is okay and doesn't hit anything, and that's probably going to be the end of the video because I really want to do the electronics next time on camera with all of you so that you can see what goes into the electronics, and we'll do basically a full process of how I do my electronics. And also, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this weapon axle back out. I should be able to, it shouldn't be glued in, but there was a lot of glue going everywhere. Oh boy, that was a huge pain. There's a lot of flex in the chassis this way, so trying to get this to work is a real problem, and basically I ended up having to use a 10mm bolt, a hammer, and some fairly insane precision. It was not great. It's something that I do think is going to be an issue, but I kind of knew that already. So that is why the hub, this bit in the middle here, is the way it is. It is designed to accept new arms without having to be taken off the robot. Basically so that I don't ever have to touch this axle again. Once I've got this back in, I'm hoping this is going to be it forever because it's a real pain to actually get it into position and also take it back out again. So we're really hopeful that we don't have to do this ever again, basically. Let's see, the problem is, because of that flex in the chassis, you need to keep everything lined up and exactly the same before you can move the axle in any way. I'm also really happy now that I added the hole in the center of the weapon, because that is helping with lining things up, which I was not expecting. No, come on, go that way. There we go. Okay, so that is where that is going to sit forever, hopefully, to the point that I might almost even just glue it in place, because I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get this back off again. So there you go. That is the weapon stack up done. Wow, this thing is, it's big, to be honest. Like, it's It's massive. It does, like, I can't really show this off too well. Actually, yes, I can. Here we go. There's 99 red balloons in comparison. This thing is huge. And also, the weapon does hit the ground, which is good because this thing is going to sit a little bit higher, probably about there, I would say, which is awesome. Final little thing to do before we wrap this video up. How much does this weigh? 80 grams. Okay, 80 grams isn't bad. That gives us 70 grams, so little under half to do all of the electronics and the wheels and the front armor, because of course we don't have front armor on this design yet either, but that is okay because we should be able to make that, I think. 70 grams is a decent chunk to be able to put into that, so this is actually not that bad on the whole. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Tune in a few weeks probably for the electronics portion of this build.